Good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. It is 6 p.m. The evening of September 18th. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. Invite you to stand and join us in an invocation tonight led by Pastor Ron Lawler with the Family Bible Church. And immediately following the invocation, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you'd like to pray with me. Our Father in heaven, we are thankful to you tonight for where we live. We are thankful to you tonight for when we live and for how we live. Also thankful to you for these ladies and gentlemen who are willing to take the lead in our city, and pray that you will grant them wisdom, discernment, the ability to accomplish what needs to be done and do so with great wisdom. Thank you for this opportunity tonight to serve you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Ron. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a couple of council members not here. I think Councilor Heisen mentioned that she might be on her way and come late, but she wasn't sure. Her meeting off island is running pretty late. So at this point, I'd ask that both Councilor Wassinger and Councilor Heisen be excused by motion. Got a motion motion and second to excuse both Councilors Wassinger and Heisen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. Anybody got anything there? Yes, Councilor Holmberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Motion by Councilor Holmberg and second by Councilor Servadius. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we are on to presentations, and we do have a community presentation tonight. With us is Sherrye Wyatt from the Whidbey and Camano Islands Tourism. Sherrye is the PR Marketing Manager and Film Liaison. Sherrye, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I'm excited. And those pictures I just saw earlier look like today, didn't they? Just a gorgeous day. So I am Sherrye Wyatt, and we work closely with you and just want to give you a little update on some of the things we've been doing. So who are we? We have several different names, so that's what's kind of fun. We're the 2% Joint Advisory Board. We're also Whidbey and Camano Islands Tourism, and we're known as Island County Tourism as well. So those are the three names that really are the same organization. It's an interlocal agreement that was entered into in the year 2000, and the city of Oak Harbor is one of the leading partners in that. It's the three cities and then unincorporated Island County. So we have 18 members on our board, and Erica, I'm sorry she's not here tonight, she's one of the members on our board, as well as Christine Cribb representing the Chamber of Commerce. All of the chambers of commerce are represented, and we have lodging representatives from throughout Island County. We meet monthly. It's a fully transparent meeting, and our budget and numbers are all sent out to lots of people, so everybody knows what we're doing, and we talk about tourism every month. And we're funded through lodging taxes primarily, and we also have written a few grants and received some funding from the Port of Seattle, Port of South Whidbey, City of Oak Harbor, and also Visit Seattle. Oh yeah, I'm in charge of this part. Okay, so what do we do? We're the Island County Destination Marketing Organization. So a DMO is often a term used, and it's the umbrella organization that would be like the city of Spokane is a DMO. Island County, we don't have individual DMOs for our small towns, so we have one for the whole county. And the Olympic Peninsula is an example of another one that actually includes several counties and several towns, and that's a DMO. So I also serve as the film liaison for the county, and we work with all of the location scouts and production companies, and just talking today, we have a movie coming, so that's exciting. We'll be working on a short film here. I was appointed by the governor to serve on the Washington Filmworks board, so I just was reappointed for my second term, and that's been great. It's called Washington Filmworks, and that gives us a real inside look at the film industry, plus also we're very aware of what projects there are and have an opportunity to be very involved. So we do regional branding. We just recently rebranded ourselves and drive off the mainland, which is great for Deception Pass Bridge. is, get off the mainland and get onto the islands. So that's some of the work we've been doing. Also, crisis communications is something that we're involved with on a regional level. And we have a crisis tourism communications plan. Islands are particularly vulnerable, so it's important to have a voice and to have talking points and a position and messaging. And this summer, with the fires that took place in the west coast of the United States, there was a new coalition that was formed, and we were actively involved in the creation of that, and that's to help with recovery in California, Oregon, and Washington. So some of our super stats. I got to go fast, but we have a mega marketing machine, which is our website. And it had 4 million people that saw it in Google search. We have 2,000 users a day. We're well over 300,000 people that are coming to our site each year. And then we have this great person working with us on media relations out of Seattle. And so we've increased our media reach. So the number of stories and the level of stories and the quality of writers coming has really increased. So we used to be happy with just a few million impressions. Now we're at 300 million and climbing. So it's been really great having this kind of partnership where we host writers and we take them all throughout the islands and then they write great stories. And that's the kind of stuff you can't really buy. It's better than advertising. We do advertising as well, of course, but this is the kind that seems to really resonate with people, especially with social media today. So we have before you a map that we do. We print 150,000 of those, and they're just great. Everybody loves them. They tell them all how to get around the islands. We do a lot of videos, great content that we share. In fact, we did a new video on PBY. We did a video on the Oak Harbor Music Festival last year that we got on the ferries for the music festival. We have done profiles on the public art in Oak Harbor and did a little series of profiles. So social media is huge with us. Fortunately, we have someone who's really focused on this. And he's not a PR person per se, so all the numbers I give you I know are true because they weren't created by a marketing person like me who might round up a few million. He's very, very sincere, and our numbers are true. So workshops. We also give workshops for the lodging community and the businesses, and we did one on media relations last year and brought in some media experts and had a great panel. It's super well attended. And this year we did one on social media and how to work with influencers. And these are people who have blogs now. They're kind of like the new thing, and they have a lot of influence. And so we brought one here who talked to us how to work with them. Collaborations and partnerships are very important to us as well. We work with the Port of Seattle very closely and Visit Seattle. We've lined ourselves up with them intentionally, and it's worked really well for us. We've received funding from them because we're bringing people through SeaTac Airport and right up to the islands to get, have a Seattle experience and then come up and be in nature. So this year, as you are aware of, I hope you were a part of the funding of this International Food, Wine, and Travel Writers Association conference, which we hosted. It was the first time it was ever in the Northwest. We wrote an RFP and were able to bring them here. We had 40 writers, and we opened it up at the Oak Harbor Yacht Club, where Commodore Larry Munns and Mayor Pro Tem Beth Munns was there, and we had the commanding officer from the Naval Air Station, so it was just great. It was just a great welcome. And then they stayed in Oak Harbor. They stayed in Oak Harbor for several nights, and then we moved them all around throughout Island County, and it was just great. We've had over 2.8 million impressions already. They did 176 social media posts just within those couple of days. These are really, I would say, prolific writers, and what I didn't really realize is that they're all required to write some stories about where they were for the conference as kind of a thank you to us. So we're excited to see the continuing media coverage for that. So another recent project you have before you is a new rack card that is explaining to visitors about the jets and the noise and what to expect. And as I drove up the island today, there were cars parked all over the sides of the road at OLF watching them. So we know that visitors are interested. We wanted to find a way to direct them to a really current schedule. So we created Jets on Whidbey and also this new rack card. And we promote the PBY as well on that as another place to learn more about the Navy and our history, military history. Recent projects, also international marketing. We have been, we dipped our toe in this with some funding from the City of Oak Harbor, actually allowed us to go to some very important trade shows along with kind of like under the wing of Visit Seattle. And we were able to do itineraries promoting the whole island, both islands, in 5 languages. And then I have a travel show next Monday that's really important. It's with Tourism Victoria and Port of Seattle. So it's great to be lining up with Canada as well as the overseas international markets. And I'm excited about our relationship with the Port of Seattle. Obviously, I mean, I think we've kind of become like really good friends. And excited about the future working with them. In fact, I was going to show you this real quick. We were finally made it on the map, and literally on the map is Whidbey Island as one of the top 20 destinations in Washington State that the Port of Seattle is promoting, so that's great. And then also I did have a program from the International Food, Wine, and Travel Writers, which we thanked you throughout, and also just, it was an impressive event. So coming up real quick, Northwest Events Show in October. This is the largest meeting and events planner show in the Pacific Northwest. We'll be there. We'll be telling everyone's story. That's our job, is really to do some things that chambers can't do, which is sort of a little different of like a regional approach. Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce would not necessarily make sense at a show of this magnitude, but with us there, Oak Harbor is represented. So it's a really great partnership that we have. SeaTac International Airport, we have been in a lottery for a couple of months now, have been successful in getting free space on the walls of SeaTac Airport. So we had one, these are dioramas, they're big screens. We had one April through June, and now we have another one in October through December, and I'm particularly excited about that because it's a very, very busy time at SeaTac. I think it's the busiest time of year, and that's not costing anything other than just the time to produce the artwork and then to follow through and make sure we get it up and installed right. So other thing that's next, and this will be my last slide, so that's good news. The New York Times show. So we're going to go to New York, and this is exciting. We have not done this before. With the San Juan Islands invited us to go with them, and Olympia. So we'll have really great representation. We will be there meeting at the New York Times show. That is a huge, huge show. It is about 10,500 trade media and trade individuals. So these are tour operators, travel agents. People still use travel agents. We're talking with them. And then it's also a consumer show of over 30,000 people in the final day. Prior to that is the International Media Marketplace, IMM, and because it's in New York, we thought we'd do both of them. They're back to back. And that's a little different. It's a smaller show. It's about 500 media, but it's one-on-one appointments. So that's a lot of media to see in one day. I'm sure we'll only see about 35 or 50, but we're excited about these two opportunities. And there's over 176 countries that are represented at these, so it's a big deal, and it's great for us to be there. And I'm glad we're going with other groups like the San Juan Islands. They just have a great reputation, and as we partner together, it just makes a lot of sense. The last thing up there is Jackrabbit. You probably wonder, what the heck is that? That is really cool. This is a direct booking mechanism that we're going to have on our website starting in January. We're going through the process now of having it integrated. And as visitors go to our website, they will be able to put in the dates of their trip, and it will search through and show them all the available lodging. And it's connected to all the lodgings directly, so we're working directly with all of the lodgings, all of them throughout the islands. And it's going to be a new thing. And we've looked at a few other places that are doing it really, really well, like Visit Rainier, and some places, I think, Ashland, Oregon, and Denver. And it's a great way of thinking about it. It's bringing more dollars directly to us, because these other places that people go, like Expedia, for example, they take a cut from the lodgings, and so we do get less lodging tax, actually, through those bookings. It's going to be directly through the lodgings themselves. We won't handle any money, but it'll go right to the lodging, and they will then book with them. So that's really quick, 10 minutes around the world of Island County tourism, but we're just thrilled to work with you. I'd love to work more with you. I think there's a lot of potential. You're our big city. You are the city. Really, the other two are towns, and we have the rest of the county. So that's about it. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now or at any time. In fact, love to have coffee with any of you and just talk more if you're interested.
Thank you, Sherrye. Before I turn it over to council, I would like to say that I received a letter from Sherrye and the chair of the tourism board, and that's Jill Johnson, by the way, asking that we consider changing our payment to them. We've, as some of you know, I think we We changed that some years ago, probably 8 years ago or thereabouts. And we used to give 1% of the total of the 4%. We have two different 2% baskets. We used to give 1% to the tourism board, and at that time we had gone down to a cap of $20,000. And so they've asked that we consider returning to the 1% in increments. I told Sherrye that not only would I make that announcement tonight, but that we will be considering that in our budget as we're moving to it. But that'll be a discussion that I'll be bringing to the council on that as part of our budget. So at this time, do any of you have questions for Sherrye? I have one question. So when you go to New York, do you go by yourself? I know you said you're going with San Juan, but you take other board members?
You know, actually, who is going is Erin Osborne, that amazing PR marketing person I mentioned. She will be going with her partner in her business. We'll send them together with the San Juan Islands and with Olympia.
So you won't be attending?
I'm not sure yet. At this point, I probably will end up going at the last minute. But right now, we know we'll have them there, and they are so connected with media already that I think it'll be a foot in the door, and it'll be kind of a jump start rather than someone they haven't met. So, yeah, so we'd love to see you back at 1%. Langley's at 1%, Coopville's at 2%, and the rest of Island County unincorporated is at 2%. So, love to see you back. Well, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Sherrye. So we will move on then at this time to our citizen comment period. This is a time when citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. To ensure comments are recorded properly, please state your name clearly into the microphone. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes to ensure all citizens have sufficient time to speak. And I see that we have Victor Rojas first off on our list. Victor?
May I give these forms to you before I start?
Sure.
Can I say something before they start the button, or did that already happened?
Oh, it looks like it started. But
Okay,
I'll give
hello,
you
my
10.
name is Victor Rojas. I am the owner of the Hangout Arcade and Lounge that will open up for our older youth in Oak Harbor, Washington, and surrounding counties. I have the certificate of formation from the Secretary of State that allows me to start and create this for our community. The location I would like this to be established at is the WAIF building at 50 Northeast Midway Boulevard, Oak Harbor, Washington. I have been in contact with WAIF as well as the owner of the building about my plans to establish the Hangout. They have responded with much support. The proposed building totals 11,000 square feet of space that will be filled with fun activities. The building is listed as an M building, a merchant building, and needs to be altered to an A3 building to accommodate an arcade per city code. Alterations required are sprinkler system, upstairs and downstairs handicap access doors, front doors. The proposed building currently only has one bathroom, which doesn't meet city code per square footage of an A3 building. An architect will have to be hired to draw up plans for 4 bathroom stalls for women and 4 bathroom stalls for men. New breaker box, electrical lines and outlets will need to be added. And all adjustments I just listed will need to be installed by certified licensed professionals. The Hangout Arcade and Lounge is asking the City of Oak Harbor to look into House Bill 1201 and House Bill 5193 for funding of the estimated cost of $120,000, which helps with the rehabilitation of regional centers. $30,000 for sprinkler system install, $5,000 for handicap access install, $3,000 for handicap access doors and install, $3,000 for an architect, $30,000 for plumbing and bathroom install, $30,000 for electrical and install. I have provided a link of House Bill 1201 that gives you more detail. I also want to ask the city for help with the 0.09 tax that the city gives to businesses that bring in tourism and lodging to make a House Bill funds, or the House Bill match funds if needed. I am willing to challenge anyone who will say that this will not bring any tourism or vacationers or be in vacationers' plan. I am no one special. I am one man. I am trying to bring the community together to create something that has been needed in this town for over 20 years. People have had over 20 years to do so and still have not to this day. So as you see, I have given you guys the form for the Secretary of State that has given me the right to create this, and I hope that you guys would participate in helping me create this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Victor. Next up is
Yes.
Councilor Olmberg has a question for you, Victor. Yes. Would you come?
Yes, sorry, Victor. Are you 501(c)(3)
No, sir, I am LLC.
LLC?
Yes, sir, and I've chosen an LLC because nonprofits are restricted to use money in certain ways that they would like to use it for what's being done. I had to learn that myself in the beginning when I first came to see you guys. I do not know protocol, so this is truly a trial and error process for me, and I would appreciate any help to say, hey, this step needed to be taken before this one. Otherwise, I'm still in the process, which is fine with me to keep my research up. And I always tell people it's not if, it's when this is going to happen.
Yeah, I see on your certificate from the Secretary of State that it does say Lounge
Yes, sir.
LLC. on
Yes, sir.
that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Tim Leonard. Tim?
Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's a first time for me. I'm sorry. My name's Timothy Leonard. I live in Langley, and I own the machine shop arcade. We started it about 2 years ago, and it started out as just one little room, and then as other tenants started to leave the building, we just sort of took over the whole space, and now we have the whole. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's on top of the hill from downtown Langley, where the laundromat is. There's an old lumberyard building built in the 40s. So it's about 3,000 or so square feet now, and we have about 70 machines set up in there. And it's just turned out to be this amazing place for people to come and just hang out. Young people, old people. I see lots of families showing up, because there's really, for us down there, there's nothing to do. And I had friends help me with this, and they'd come to me and say, well, what do the kids have to do down here? And I was like, nothing. There really is nothing. I know there's a lot more going on up here, but it was amazing to see groups of families come in together, racing card games together, and smiles on their faces. So, I don't know. Victor reached out to me a while back, and we've been sort of brainstorming together. And at first, I just really want to introduce myself to you guys. I work with Langley City Council quite a bit, but haven't been to no Carver Council meeting yet. This is awesome. So, and I invite any of you all to come down and visit us down there. So I show you around. And we have virtual reality down there. We have 4 headsets set up so that 4 people can play together, whole families can play together in the same game, like paintball or whatever. And we have a little snack bar. We don't serve alcohol. We have live music venue once a month. And we have open mics on Fridays. We have art gallery in the back space. And so it's a real community hub. One person called it Langley's living room. I thought that was kind of nice. So you'll be seeing more of me, I hope, with Victor, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Is there anyone else for citizen comments? Going once, going twice. Okay. We will move along, and thank you again for coming and participating. Next on our list is consent agenda. Looks like we've got, A through E? Anyone? Yes, Councilor Servadius.
Just had a question on item D, Mayor.
Item D? Okay. Let's consider the other A, B, C, and E approved as presented, and grant agreement, Rural County Economic Development Funds, Northeast 21st Court Sewer Expansion Project.
Just a basic question. I should know the answer to this, but I didn't. Is the amount here, the 646, is that one, what we applied for, and two, the estimated cost of the project in total?
You know, I don't know whether we've got anybody back there. Yes, oh, it looks like Kathy's coming. We'll let our Public Works Director answer.
That is the amount that we applied for, and that was our very rough planning estimate.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay.
I move
Thank
to approve item 4D.
Second?
Okay, motion to approve item number 4D as grant agreement.
I second.
We have motion and a second. Motion by Councilor Servadia, second by Mayor Pro Tem Munns to approve consent item 4D, grant agreement, Rural County Economic Development Funds, Northeast 21st Court Sewer Expansion Project. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. So we're going to move on to item number 5, and I think the first, I've got several different things to talk about, but I think the first one will have Mr. Golst come up. Project Closure Coordinator, up.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Gary Galtz, and I'm here to talk about the big project. If I remember how to operate this. Yes, there you go. The scope, we're still continuing with the same scope. On the project, we're looking for a closing schedule, closing protocols, use and review of allowances and contingencies, and to report regularly to the mayor and the city council. Goals. The closeout schedules are on target. Durations and sequences will need to be revised, and that will be done. We put together, there's going to be a joint effort with Brett and Hoffman. Now that we have gotten to a point in time that we don't have all the information, we're very close to having all the information regarding delay impacts, as we talked about before. The contractor, because of the strike, was off the job for 14 days. And we have a new schedule, but the new schedule is not reflective of what this 14 days is going to do. We know it took place. There's no dispute about that. But at this point in time, we know, and we'll see it when I get later into the presentation, but we know that we're on target in terms of schedule. But we do need to get the schedule updated and make sure that any impacts are shown so we can analyze whether they're entitled to 14 days or if there's compensation or what. Number 2, allowances and contingencies. They're a constant focus with us. I'd like to say we've developed a culture out on the projects that has leaned towards looking for less expensive ways to deal with changes, maybe some ways to garner some credits by saving a few dollars here and there. And these have added up quite a bit. I don't know the exact number, but I'm comfortable it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of savings. Number 3, communication orders issues continue. There is a camaraderie out on this site. There is a communication level. I've never attended so many meetings in my life as the coordination meetings these guys hold with subcontractors, contractors, the designers, the city. Coordination has become kind of number 1, I think, on the agenda, and it's the key to success. We all know that. We all know that in our personal lives. Organization and communication are the 2 things that guaranteed we achieve the goals that we're looking for. Critical milestones. As I mentioned before, the assessment of recent strike impacts are not yet fully ascertained. Delays, but no apparent cost impacts. We're waiting. We have received the notification from the contractor that he's been delayed, and we're waiting now for him to define what delayed means? What does it mean in terms, does it have cost implications? Is it strictly time? And I feel good about it. I think we're going into it again with that culture of saving money. I don't see anybody trying to come to the table and take advantage, but again, I'm from Missouri, we got to be shown, so once we get that document, then we can report back to you regarding it. Next item is critical, oops, I went too far, sorry. Okay. Critical milestones. The first one is assessment of recent strike impacts. Second one is demolition of the windmill, slated for December 1st. However, as of today, I'm hearing September 24th for the demolition. Contractors moved it up about a week, and that's currently what we're showing for the demolition of the windmill, and also the demolition of the bank building. Number 3, January 1st is new clean water facility plan is operational. It's going to be operational before then. For instance, we know now, as of today, I just found out, that November 15th is the date we are tentatively scheduling for a grand opening of the operational part of the project, of the actual plant. And at that time, there's going to be a ribbon cutting, and we're starting to work on that with a caveat that we know between now and then, if something happens that we're not ready and it isn't operational, then we certainly wouldn't move forward. Park improvements. Hardscape activities and excavation work are proceeding. Windjammer should be open on July 3rd, 2019, barring unforeseen circumstances. Contractor's made a strong commitment towards meeting that timeline. He feels he has adequate time in the schedule to do it, and it'd be great to be able to have a 4th of July event again. Number 2, grass planted this fall, trees and shrubs installed winter and spring. I could also add that currently they're putting in some of the hardscape things, retaining walls and the rocks, the faux rocks that they put together as part of the splash park. Number 2, grass planted this fall, trees and shrubs installed winter and spring. I got nervous about that. My wife's a landscape designer. I went to her and she said, we're doing it right. I thought that maybe the timing was wrong, but she said they're fully dormant at that time and that's the best time. So, Number 3, community to use the new facility as soon as open. And I think we can fully expect positive comments because we're already starting to get them. I get them when I go to Hagen. I get them when I walk down the street. Overall, I don't know why that shows that as belonging. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I feel the community's been well served by this project. Quality facility, built with room to grow and state-of-the-art ecological design. 2, I know early on one of the concerns we had was cost. So I've spent a little time going back, taking a look at what costs came up during the course of the last year that caused the cost to go up on the projects. The following cost impacts took place. Inflation. That was due to higher than anticipated in the estimates. Contractors, estimators are kind of like, I don't know how they do it. I mean, there's a hard number thing to do it, X amount of widgets for X amount of size for X amount of dollars. But really, they're kind of like the weatherman. They give it their best shot, but sometimes things happen. And we don't control the national economy, and we're unable to deal with the regional issues. So we had higher than average inflation, and that cost us a little more. The market, unexpected growth leading to fewer builders. I think we've all driven through Seattle and seen all the tower cranes. That existed when we were bidding these projects, these various GMPs along the progress of the projects. And it led to fewer bidders. In fact, in GMP 13, I think we had no bidders. And despite having called people and knocked on doors and begged people to show up, when they have a full plate, they have a full plate. And that affects, of course, the cost. For enough money, anybody can be enticed probably, but they don't prefer to do that. They'd rather have control of what's going on, and so they're reticent. Next item, labor, like the market, lack of skilled tradesmen leads to higher costs. It's hard to get good people. So contractors are forced to go to the union halls or to friends of friends and look for workers, and sometimes these guys aren't the best workers, not the most skilled people. The good hands have been working full-time for quite a while. People now are, it's tough, so contractors are facing the labor market. LEED silver certificate, leadership, energy, and environmental design. When we chose to go ahead with pursuing that, which is a smart move, and I have another comment here regarding it, but when that was done, we had to go into it knowing that it costs a little bit more to be environmentally more correct. But the net effect, it increases costs up front, but they're typically regained in later savings. More insulation, less heat. Costs due to quality, but increase the value. When you put in the odor control unit that we have is a very high-end, but very, very well and efficient functioning facility. We opted to go to that. In many regards, costs of quality are simply making a decision that we're going to do something that is going to last a long period of time and looks good. Site conditions. We all know that this whole area is a Native American artifact site. And with that, poor soils and proximity to Puget Sound, it becomes a little more difficult for construction, and that's reflected in the cost of the project. Outcome. Judicious review by the community, council, mayor, city staff, designers, and Hoffman have resulted in a facility that we can all be proud of for decades. The inclusionary approach that was used has led to a highly functional and at the same time beautiful addition to the community. I, for one, am proud to be part of this project, which will be a model for the region for years to come. And then the final item I have here today is starting September 21st, I'm reducing my hours to just less frequent instead of half time, maybe a quarter time, maybe a fifth of the time, and on the as needed basis, that results in savings. And I frankly don't feel that me being here more hours is going to garner any more savings. I think we're on the right track for savings. Again, that culture about saving, and I will continue to be as needed. If Brett needs me to come up and do something, he knows where I live and he can call me. So I'm not giving up on the project, but I am going to cut it back to minimal amounts here at this point in time, starting on the 21st. And now the mayor has something, I believe.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up at this time. We did talk about Gary not needing to work as much, if perhaps not at all, beyond the 21st. But I just wanted to make a statement here about a couple things. As was reported way back in February, I take responsibility very seriously in controlling the costs of this clean water facility project. It's our city's largest project ever. Very complex. We have been competing in the escalated market demands, as Mr. Goltz has as stated, for materials, supplies, and labor. I announced the plan to retain a construction specialist to conduct an intensive review. Initially, we contracted with an outside agency, and ultimately we hired a local community resource, being Mr. Goals, to be on site for an immediate review. The findings have been reported to you now, and I want to follow up and say again, as Mr. Goals has said, this is a great project, has a clean record of accountability standards. It has been built on a schedule to meet the expectations of our community for years into the future, 40 to 50, we hope. Yes, there were unexpected and substantial increases to the project that were a result of the demand of the large-scale construction trades. In addition, we didn't learn well into the process. We didn't learn until well into the process of our own technology capabilities not being utilized within our financial accounting system for large-scale project management. The project cost increases were significant. However, any concerns or questions related to the cost increases have been addressed by our employees. I can assure you, your city and staff have learned a lot through this process. The culture has changed. Cost savings became a highest priority. Staffing changes occurred. Our reporting standards increased. Community levels enhanced, and we are committed to continue finding other ways to improve. As planned, the cost increases to sewer utility rates should remain as previously approved by council. Our community will be a model because of this facility. Our waterfront is being resurrected, and there's a lot more work to be done for the park to be completed, but I'm confident in the process moving forward. We're extremely proud and very excited to celebrate our new clean water facility grand opening. As you heard, we think that's going to be November 15th. It has been a long process over the past years, and very soon there will be a new energy and life created for all of our community and island visitors to enjoy. We hope you'll join us in celebrating this huge accomplishment of our city, our staff, and our contractors and consultants. And I think the Windjammer target is the 4th of July, so 2019. So with that said, I'm going to complete my remarks here in just a minute. I have several others, actually. And then if you've got any questions, we can take them at that time. So I attended a meeting with, I think they were calling it a partnership, at 5 o'clock this evening regarding the swimming pool. The people at the table were the school district. There was a representative from the Noon Rotary Club. There were representatives from their commission, from the Park Commission, not their entire commission. Obviously, that would have been a public meeting. And then there were representatives of the Pool Foundation. And they have convinced me that without some help from the city, they'll have to cancel their swim, both the ladies and men's swim teams this year. They do believe with some help that they can find a way to keep that pool, get that pool warmed up again for those swim teams. And also even some usage from the general public, quite limited. Obviously, their concern is that they need that levy to pass, and this partnership, I think, is dependent to some degree on that levy passing, but it's more importantly, it's a way to keep the swim teams able to compete this year. So I'll use some of my, some of the money that I have a limit on what I can spend. I certainly do not intend to spend over that $30,000 limit, but I do intend to participate in a pool partnership. So having said that, let me see. I wanted to also announce that, we've got some new art here. And Our artist is Robert Reynolds, also known as Vaughn Robert. Was born in Pueblo, Colorado in 1958. He is self-taught and has always been an artist since the time he could grasp a pencil. Drawing or painting everything he could get his hands on, he won his first art contest at the age of 4. Although he is inspired by particular locations, his paintings tend to simplify places so that they may appear to be from your hometown. His techniques create depth and movement as he portrays mysterious frozen moments in a story. We hope that his art inspires you and brightens your life. Also, Constitution Week is the week of September 17th through the 23rd. This week marks the 231st anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States by Constitutional Convention. So, Constitution Week. Also wanted to announce that our November meeting will be moved to Wednesday, November 7th, because of Election Day. So we do that for election, at election time. Also, a couple more, and then I'll be finished. Past events just finished up this last weekend. Hydros for Heroes. Wouldn't be surprised if one of our counselors might speak about that even a little more, but I did want to say that on Saturday, I got I'm not going to say I was shocked, but I found out that we have yet another fine singer in our midst. When Bill Larson sang the national anthem, we've heard Tara Heisen, most of you have heard Tara Heisen sing the national anthem, but if you weren't there on Saturday morning, you missed a great opening there with Bill singing the national anthem. Had the boat out in the harbor with the American flags on it. It was really cool, and did a really nice job, Bill. So, finally, Oktoberfest is this Saturday, September 22nd, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Come to Oak Harbor downtown for live music, food and drinks, and shopping. Free admission and fun for all. Oktoberfest is sponsored by Oak Harbor Main Street and the Swinomish Casino and Lodge. I think at this time, that concludes my comments and my report. Yes, Councilor Holmberg.
Council comments?
Sure. It's time for
While
Council.
we have Mr. Galtz
Yes.
here, and we have Brett following him on this report, we have Kathy Rosen, the Public Works Director here. There's a couple of comments I would like to follow up on your presentation, Mr. Galtz. And one of the big items in here, and please, all three of you can comment on this to correct me if my comment or my understanding is not correct. But one of the large capital costs that we experienced on this project was the decision that we made to go with the dryer, to have the solids go through the dryer system. And my recollection is that it was approximately about $14 million for the building and the dryer system, which allows us to produce the Class A solids that can be used as fertilizer deposited locally versus the alternative of using stabilized sludge at approximately the same cost to truck it out of the vicinity over the life of this project. So one is a capital cost, the other one is an unknown long-term cost that's highly dependent on regulations for trucking sludge, the city sewage, down the road to Eastern Washington or to other places in the future. Is that a fair comment? Is that a correct comment?
Yes, if you might recall, in September 2000, it was actually late 2015, early 2016, we made the decision to go with the dryer. And that was based on present worth analysis where we compared the capital cost of the options versus the operational savings, and the dryer was equivalent, about the same price. So we're paying a little more capital costs, but we are experiencing savings in the actual annual cost of the facility. So it's offsetting. And also we're putting out a much a nicer environmental product that we can dispose of locally, and it's going to be a better product, because the other option we had was lime stabilized sludge, which was pretty icky. If that's a technical term. So we would have been hauling it a long ways away, and even then I think we'd have had a problem finding somebody to actually take it.
And that decision really is about risk management.
Yeah, risk management, and it was a very economic choice that I think is panning out.
Thank you. The other comment that I have here along with that is, by not delaying this project, we were able to take advantage of unusually low interest rates through our SRF funding, and I think it's approximately $95 million that came in at 1.6 and 1.2% over 20 and 30 years. Those are big numbers that affect our monthly rates, and those types of decisions, those kinds of events get lost in the mix of these discussions often when we just look at one number about says, well, this is what the whole thing costs, because the cost of money is also a large cost. Is that a fair statement?
That is a very fair statement, and right now there's no SRF money. It's all going to Seattle. I put in a pitch for some more, and they've got somebody else that's elbowing us aside, so that's an excellent. I think also, while we did see impacts of cost increases, we got about 70-80% of our project bought out prior to this cost impact hitting us. So you might remember we were having low bids there for a long time, and we were actually feeling pretty positive. Then we got whammied, but getting out of the chute, I think early got us the SRF money and got us in a good marketplace. And I wish we could have rode that marketplace to the end, but we didn't.
And, it's a great segue to my next comment in this little time here that I have. Timing is everything. Timing, whether you're a developer in the private side or if you're in the public side, timing is everything. One of the things, as you just said, we got, I think about 60%, 75% of this project bought out on the material side of the project before we had the big escalations that started showing up in the GMP's, I think, 10. But the other thing that we avoided, and it's not grand news when you say you avoided a catastrophe, but there's a lot of steel that goes into this project, rebar. Rebar is a huge item. Steel and other metals are subject to tariff increases now. Even though it's foreign steel that's coming into the country, domestic steel still compete with those. Those prices have gone up. I've looked those numbers up, and we're looking at 15%, 20% increase in cost that we avoided by not procrastinating this project, because there are hundreds and hundreds, thousands of tons of steel in this project and all that concrete. Is that a fair,
That's very
accurate?
fair, and we're all wiping our brow because what we're hearing in other projects is pretty tragic, and people are coming back with price escalation in the projects because they're right. We bought our steel out in 2016, 2015, and we carried that price forward. So I'm hearing some horror stories on it right now, and stainless is in the 25% range. And so it's...
And we have a lot of stainless in the
we have a
wastewater
lot of
treatment plant,
stainless,
absolutely.
Like I say, timing, I agree with everything, and while the price is a little higher than we expected, I think we beat a bad market. It could have gone really bad on us. We also got in and got done. We also got the excellent financing, and that's where our ratepayers really got the benefits.
And now we are negotiating with the Navy, who will have to do something with the lagoons eventually. So we'll see how that goes, Mayor. I think that will come out to the benefit of our ratepayers. Thank you to you, to Mr. Goltz, Kathy Rosen, and that entire team out there working on that new wastewater treatment facility.
Councilor Servadius.
Thank you. Mr. Goltz, question. I'm not from the Show Me State, I'm from Idaho. You mentioned several $100,000 in savings. Is that
Yes.
something quantifiable that we'll see in a report or in a memo?
I hadn't planned on doing it. It's kind of hard. First of all, I can't even take credit for all of these numbers because Brett, I know, negotiates hard with them. I sit down with them, the way it's kind of evolved, I typically kind of get a little bit in front of what Brett's doing when he sits down with the spreadsheets with him. And I'll sit down and say, look, help us out here. We have a great project, something you can be proud of. But we're getting to the end, and if we get a bunch of change orders, that's what they're going to remember. And I sat down with several of the consultants and told them, is there any way we can cut this amount down? And one of them came down $400,000. And it reduces what he's doing on the project, but it was time. It was time. And I know that, and he knew that once we started going through the machinations. Then he sat down with Brett, and Brett took the rest of the money, and I think we turned out great. I think we made a good team on that. And,
So I didn't want to create work. Those are good news stories, and if there's some way to quantify that, I'd like
I
to
can
see
put
it.
some numbers out, yeah, yeah, I can. I just didn't know, when you negotiate something, do you want to expose the person you negotiated with as being someone who took a financial fall? You know, I mean, it's a little sensitive, but I'll put something together, yes. I can
Thank
do
you.
that.
Councilor Larson.
I had a quick question for Mr. Goltz, but before that, I want to say, Rhett, the monthly reports that you send us and that are part of our packet, as we get closer to wrapping up this project, those pictures get a lot more interesting. For a lot of months that we saw pictures of cement. I was particularly interested in the one this month with the gentleman and the waiters standing in the bubbler. I don't envy those guys, their position, but they're, like I said, very interesting. So thanks for continuing to keep us abreast of the new and very fun and interesting things that are going on down there. Mr. Goltz, you talked about the delay that
Yeah.
we're looking at because of the strike. And you said we'll know more about the time cost and if there will be a financial cost as soon as that document arrives. So I have a quick three-part question. Of what document do you speak? Who are we getting that from, and when do we expect
I'm
it?
sorry I didn't make that clearer. Hoffman has given us a notification, I got to say, 2 weeks ago. Is that right, Brett?
It was the date of the strike.
Yeah, I think it was about two weeks ago, approximately. And they gave us notification at that time. In the letter, it said we will be outlining the costs. I'm paraphrasing it, of course, but we'll outline the costs more in detail once the strike comes to an end and we know what the total impacts are. We haven't gotten that yet. We've started to push. It's been a while, but I'm confident now that we're going to be getting the number. There's no doubt. And I think we have a real good case that minimal costs are all we'd be allowed. I don't see this as being a big claim because of our contract documents, our specifications that lay out that for delays, you're entitled to time. But compensation, not so much. So we'll use that tool and sit down and talk with them. However, I got a hunch they're going to be bringing us something like extended time for renting a crane or something like that. Those are legitimate things. And if we extend it by 14 days, that's 14 days that crane sat there without anybody in it, and that's the case. So there are costs there, and it's not fair to them, but we'll go through that. We'll go through that in detail, I can assure you.
Thank you.
Councilor Wiesman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Goltz, a follow-up to Councilor Servadius's questions about the cost savings. Now, when those cost savings are negotiated, I assume it's through some sort of a contractual
Sure.
deal. And wouldn't that money, once that contract is signed and those cost savings are realized through that contractual obligation, wouldn't that be the time that it would be transferred back into the contingency fund or something? Or when would we see that, and how would we see that?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Well,
I'll ask Brad. I think he,
What he was specifically discussing is consultant services. Remember, we approved the contracts for KBA and with ERCI, I think 2 council meetings ago. And so we started off at a higher, so the number you actually approved actually had included those. We originally started off a higher number, and the number you saw was the final number that we received. So it wasn't construction contingency transfer or that type of thing. It was a new contract.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And it appears as though we do have some, some pretty good news in adjustments to the contingency. One of them was the car gate, changing the gate from aluminum to steel. I do see a $67,665 savings there being transferred into the owner contingency. And then it looked like we also had some reduction of rigid insulation, $364. So that's how we would expect to see the real live savings over the GMPs as they were previously approved.
Yeah, that's the contingencies will show the pluses and minuses, and the car gate. That's actually 2 gates, and that's our main entrance gate, and we had an allowance for that, and we were able to get a lower price based on working with the specifications.
Okay, and one final question. How are we doing on contingency? Are we still feeling we have enough money in the contingency funds to cover the unexpected? I know it's hard to expect the unexpected, but...
Yeah, we're very comfortable with the level of contingency. To me, it's a question of how much can we get back. Right now, we're in that point where things happen, and so I'm not making any promises, but I'm actually very comfortable with where we are. But it doesn't take much to jump on us, But
I agree 100%. I think we have adequate funds, but things happen. Out on Beeksma, the ground started pumping where the road was coming in. We had to remove some material. That's expensive. Those things come up. It's through nobody's fault, but I think we're in good shape.
Well, I do like those ones that say 2 owner contingency And thank you for that. Thank you very much. And are we continuing on with council comments, or?
Sure. Oh, Mayor Brogan.
Thank you. Either or. We got a lot of comments that were, in a sense, kicking us down that we cut down all the trees, or most. And then all of a sudden people started commenting like, wow, I didn't know we had such a view because the trees blocked. So in the planting of trees and shrubs, is there maybe some adjustment that maybe we won't put in quite so many trees because it opened up some avenues of view that people didn't realize we had, that is so gorgeous when you're driving by or coming down the hill or whatever. It's just a question. You may or may not know.
I can probably address that. We're putting back 140 trees, so we're putting in a lot of trees. But I think the trees that we had before were spaced. The poplars were spaced in sort of a hedge or a blocking way, and the trees we're putting back are planted more towards spread out. So it's not so much the wall effect you would see. So yeah, we're putting back trees. I think we always thought about maintaining view lines in that, 50 years from now, those trees were big, but even then, I think we're not going to have the same issue we have with the poplars or the maples down there where in a straight line. So I think the spread of the trees, now, once the Gary Oaks get big, but that's a long ways down the road, so.
Excuse me, another question is, we've talked about, and early on, we kind of told our story, but this dryer one keeps coming up, and I don't know really how much the public knows. If we wait till when we start to do our different openings, ribbon cutting for this, and this part open, and this part open, you get overloaded with information, but the dryer and how it's really will save money, and I don't know if many people know about what LEED buildings are. We got a LEED for our Pioneer Way, and it's little increments of stories. I don't know, we're working with environmental issues, also with the chamber. if someone's come up that, I mean, before you know it, November, whatever date it is for the first ribbon cutting is going to be here, and is someone working on little stories to kind of get the...
That was part of what we,
Okay.
at the workshop in July, we talked about bringing viral issues back forward because, our service, and that to me is part of the thing we need to be talking about as we move forward, with the chamber, with anybody else, is this is a success story. There's a lot of things, our biosolids, if we get the community involved, they're going to see the benefit of it because they'll be taking it home in bags, So I personally feel that we have a success story and we have to express it to anybody that'll listen. But to me, just walk around proud of that and just looking at that park and looking at our facility down there is a lot that says a lot for ourselves, And so, yeah, that's, we were hoping to bring in buyer issues forward again, but with the chamber issues and just our workloads at this point, we're going to bring that forward in a future meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for wastewater.
Okay. Other city council comments? Councilor Wiesner?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up, Mayor, on your comment about the hydro race this weekend. Certainly, in typical Whidbey fashion, the weather cleared and the water calmed, and it became a beautiful day right at the end of racing. But the 35-plus race teams that came to town put on a fantastic show down there. We ended up racing 16 heats on Saturday and got in about 10 of the heats on Sunday before the weather just became too much and then eventually cleared. But I just wanted to give a shout out to all the city staff. This truly was a community event. There was city staff down there helping with street closures, Friday afternoon and again opening up those streets on Sunday evening. And, I don't know that there wasn't a department at the city that wasn't involved in helping put the event on so that it could stay free for all the community and the fans to show up. And yes, Councilman Larson, you blew the doors off the Star Spangled Banner, and Skipper was standing next to us, and I think he was a little touched by that. So we appreciate you showing up, and we appreciate all the volunteers, and had a great time. And I can tell you that the racers have started on the Facebook pages, basically naming us the best race site they race at, and calling it not only the best course, but the best town to race in. And they're already asking for next year's date. So we appreciate the city's support.
Great job. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I had the pleasure I'm on the MRSC board, which is Municipal Research Service Center, and it's basically a group of lawyers that go through anything and everything questions on what cities, towns, and counties can do. And part of all county and city money, there's a percent, 0.1, that goes towards paying them money to be able to hire the staff, so that anyone, whether you're a new business or a city of 150 people, you can call them and say, is it legal to do this? Or what's another way to do this? Or we've heard this is the rumor, and they check it out for you free. So it is nice to have that, and hopefully we'll continue. They ask that we put it in our priorities to ask the legislator to be sure to keep funding it. I know if you go down and ask any of the departments that they have all used it. Anna Thompson, I think, said she'd use it probably once a day for some of the public record rules and regulations and stuff. So it's a really good thing, and I'm proud to represent our city and be part of that board. Also, AWC, we had a meeting in Walla Walla talking about emerging issues and what they'll put out. In fact, there was a letter today. I think everyone in the city should have gotten it. 2018 public work legislation, what's it going to mean when you do contracts? Anyway, those things are important. Yes, it's another email that you look for, but if you look at it, there's some very good ideas in how to keep the city going and not being caught behind and getting fined because we're not keeping up with something. But AWC is having a regional meeting. If you look at your little form here, on the 13th of November, over in Anacortes, which isn't very far. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you get to meet mayors and councilmen from other cities, from San Juan Islands, as far as Blaine, Squin, all the way up to Marysville. I mean, it's a huge area. There's actually 19 incorporated cities in District 14, which I represent, and what they're thinking and what problems are. You'll be surprised that we have a lot of things happening together, and sometimes we get blinders on. So it's nice to see the other side, and that we're really kind of all in this together. And I hope you can tell Dina that you're able to go, or you can register online yourself. But it is worth your time to go to that evening dinner, and I hope you guys will sign up for it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Other council comments? Yes, Councilor West.
I don't want to belabor the Hydros for Heroes thing, but I got to spend the whole weekend there. I had my 2 minutes of fame and glory on Saturday morning, but Jim Wiesner, I think, wore through at least one pair of tennis shoes. Every morning, I was lucky enough to get one of the parking spots on Pioneer, so I was there all day Saturday and all day Sunday, just hanging out. This guy was working. You, Craig McKenzie, your whole team. Yeah, there were a lot of people from the city staff who were down there. There were a lot of volunteers, but there were a lot of moving parts to this. And I was, everywhere I went, you or Craig were there. You or Greg were there. And at one point, I was like, this is not really a glorified job, because both of you were humping chairs before the evening music. So you were either at the dock, you were at where the boats were going in, and the crane operations, at the beer garden, at the stage, just making things happen. And it was just so much work, but for our city to have such an incredible time, the whole weekend, despite the weather, despite the wind, despite the early morning wetness, everyone just had a phenomenal time. And I was so happy to be able to participate in that as a bystander and not as somebody who was working as hard as you guys were. So thank you guys for bringing this to our city and keeping it going.
Well said. Okay. That concludes our council comments, so we will go to City Administrator.
All right, I have a few comments before we go into more discussion on the clean water facility. First of all, I just want to call your attention to the upcoming important city council dates that you have been provided on the little sheet, thanks to our city clerk. I appreciate her help there and keeping us on track. I want to call attention to some of the special dates. We have the employment fundamentals for elected officials at 10 a.m. on September 26th, workshop on regular schedule. And then we have on Tuesday, October 2nd, the first meeting of the Transportation Benefit District number 1 that encompasses the City Council as that board. So exciting opportunity there, and dress up like you are now, because hopefully we'll do pictures that day too. So, and then also Vice Mayor Munns called attention to the November 13th regional meeting that Dina Emery, the mayor's assistant, will help you with the registration on. And then also I wanted to call your attention to discussions for Windjammer Park for public relations and marketing. The mayor and I approved a public service agreement between the city and the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce for public relations and marketing on the new Windjammer Park for $7,699 for services through December 2018. For additional services a proposal for additional services will be brought to the City Council, and we anticipate it'll be at the October 16th meeting. If you have any questions or comments regarding that service agreement with the Oak Harbor Chamber, I'd be happy to answer them for you. And then one other item before, I think we probably need a motion to move the Tuesday, November 6th meeting to the following day because of the conflict with the election. Does that have to be an agenda item? Can they make the motion? I can't make a motion, but I'll recommend one.
Councilor Servadius.
Thank you. I move to move our regularly scheduled meeting of November 6th to a special meeting on November 7th.
Second.
Motion to move our regularly scheduled meeting on November 6th to November 7th. Motion by Councilor Servadius, second by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay,
Okay, now more the discussion on the clean water facility.
okay.
I'm back up. We'll go ahead and talk about our project update for the clean water facility. It's very busy times right now. A lot of things coming together very fast. I call it collapsing critical paths, and with the strike made things a little more exciting, but we're doing very well. This is our membrane treatment area. This is what this could look like when it's finished. We actually don't have the cassettes in there now because we're testing them out. So this is almost ready to start. We're actually going to start testing it, hoping to start dropping cassettes in Friday. Major milestone for us, because once we get that testing done, we're actually ready to start putting sewage to it. So busy time there. That's going to be our first step. Another thing that's happening right now is our operators are being trained to operate all these systems. They're doing any place from 3 to 4 trainings a week. Remember, in a few short weeks, we'll actually be operating the system. So the guys are really picking up information, and like I said, I'm real excited about them getting started. They are very positive about it and very hands-on, which is a good sign. But remember, it's going to be our system. It's going to be their system. This is actually kind of fun. We're building a very advanced treatment plant, but everybody's got a lot of attention on our splash park. So this is our faux rocks. These things here, if I can push the right button, that looks like, it's hard to tell with this picture. If you walk up to it, it looks like driftwood, but it's actually concrete. And we're actually going to be putting jets out of that thing. And so these are just mock-ups we did to show how it works. This looks like a rock we'd see around town, and it's actually a piece of concrete. So it's actually pretty cool. We also, here we're going to have sort of a stream effect, and so we wanted to make sure that we had it non-slip surface and that type of thing too. So this is actually a lot of fun to do, and I'm looking forward to doing that. We do kind of wire mesh to make these things work. So the kids are going to have a great time with this, and our pirate ship's under fabrication. This is our odor control system. These are the bags of the biomedia. This was the critical path item for us because by the time we hit the strike, we were getting ready to start loading bags, and we couldn't run the crane. So getting the crane operator back in service and getting the bags loaded has been a great help to us. So I'm excited about that. It's all loaded now. That's all. Anyway, what's going on is a lot of our work now is making, the equipment's there. We're making the control systems work and talk to each other. So there's quite a bit of our SCADA software interface with the actual controllers on the equipment. So quite a bit of that going on. So it's not so much wrench pulling anymore now. It's guys looking at, guys, and we have actually an all-female crew looking at computer screens. So that's been a big part of the work, and keeping that moving along, while it's not as impressive, is very critical to us right now. Operator training, as I said, that's been a very big part of it, getting the crew ready to start running this thing. Good news, we did finalize our solids management plan. We got a draft approval from DOE, and we're doing the final permit for that, so that's another milestone out of the way. We have obtained building permits for all the park projects, including both the pavilion and the West Kitchen, which were, of course, approved later, and so we're able to catch those up. Construction-wise, a lot of ongoing equipment testing and startup. That's a lot of work. We're still running about 100 workers on site. Clean water facility is going down, but we're crewing up for the park. So we're building the buildings and stuff is starting to get busy. Another milestone for us, I keep saying that, is we're going to actually occupy the administration and maintenance building probably last part of this week. So we're going for temporary occupancy permit on Wednesday, and we're going to start moving people over there. So the Hoffman crews will be going into the maintenance building as temporary office facilities. The city and Carollo and KBA will be in the administration building. So that's a big change for us. A lot of electrical stuff going on. Like I say, we're starting up the membrane system, and that's a 6-week process, and it's going quite smoothly, so we're pretty excited about that. So coming out of that, we started with sewage. With the Whidbey Bank building, had the demolition crews start moving in today, so that's going to happen probably next week. So stand by for a better view line. Windjammer Park, most of the mass earth moving is complete. Still a lot of equipment running around, but it's mostly doing we call the fine earthwork, the grading for the walkways and that type of thing. That's still a fairly equipment intensive way. We're doing continuing irrigation installation. We're doing the hardscaping and paving installation, so we actually hope to start doing some paving in the next 2 weeks. They're getting ready to do that big Crescent parking lot is going to be coming along pretty soon. And then the pavers were actually involved with the strike too, so getting them back on site was a coup for us. We were ready to go, so they brought us in. We're constructing the East Kitchen, the West Kitchen, and the Pavilion. Those foundations are there. We'll start pouring next week. As I said, the splash park is getting going. Mostly right now it's mechanical installation, but the rock guy is going to be coming in. It's probably starting next week. We did obtain an Island County grant for the project. I think it's for the pavilion. I'm not sure where we are on that, but we got notified on that one. Budget-wise, these numbers reflect the amendments we did last week. So total project right now is $148,885,000. We're expended as of the end of August at $128,141. Excuse me, I can't see that. And we have about $20,141,000 left to spend on the project, and that's going fast. We're burning about $4 or $5 million a month right now. So, major upcoming ideas, as we've discussed earlier, we are tentatively scheduling our ribbon cutting for the treatment part of the plant on November 15th. So put that your date. We'll give you more as we plan that. We'll have more information for you, but I want to get people aware of that one. We talked a little bit about potential schedule impacts. As you know, we did have an operator strike. That strike has been settled. It affected our heavy equipment operators and our crane on site. Windjammer Park and the site development activities experienced some minor delays. While the earthwork was slowing down, everybody else was able to keep working. If it had gone much longer, we would have had some issues, but our subcontractor signed an agreement, so he was back to work actually before the strike was actually settled. This major subcontractor who was working that has been working overtime to catch it up, and that has no cost to us. He's getting back on schedule, and so we're very happy with the progress to date on that. So that right now we're not seeing any experienced cars. We are accelerating our mechanical and electrical subcontractors to make up for some of that crane delay. And when we do acceleration, we're just bringing them in overtime to do that. So rather than, we're paying time and a half, but the city's only paying the half. So our acceleration. So we do not see any major delays or costs involved with this. The acceleration is optional, but we want to get the facility up and running. What's happening is we're starting up a facility in the perfect time of year, but if we start doing startup activities too much later, we have the potential of running into bad weather and peak flows and that sort of thing. So I really want to get the biological system up and stabilized by the middle of November. So again, it's not a major cost to us, and there's no extended overhead costs or that type of thing involved. Schedule highlights, we have published 46. We're trying to regroup on the startup, but I think we're in pretty good shape. One thing I want to make people aware of is with us putting sewage into the facility, we actually have to do some modifications to the sewer system out in front of the plant. So that's another big point for us but unfortunately we're going to have to close the right-hand lane from Pioneer onto City Beach there in front of Wells Fargo. So there'll be some traffic impact for a couple of days while we do the bypass. So we'll be start putting the word out on that, but I want people to be aware of that there will be some minor inconveniences going on, and we'll have a traffic control plan the first part of next week, then we'll start spreading the word on that one. Again, we're starting, early date for starting to treat sewage right now is October 8th, and the late date is October 22nd, and I'm looking for the 8th personally. By end of November, we plan to have the sewage and solid startup complete. We're looking for the biological system to get moving, and we're actually pretty optimistic about that. Rest of this year, we'll be working on the site improvements in Windjammer Park, and coming back in the spring to finish off things. We'll probably have some landscaping, mostly on the east side, that's going to get caught up in the springtime, so, and City Beach Street. But like I say, we're shooting for the 4th of July to have a full meal deal and have a good party. We met with the Navy yesterday. We're transferring the lagoon, still on schedule for December 31st. If you want to find out more about our project, you can reach our website at oakharborcleanwater.org. You can call our call line at 914-7000 or our extensions. You can email us at treatmentplant@oakharbor.org. And we have discontinued visitor hours because we don't have access anymore, public access, but we can arrange for somebody who wants to come out and arrange a tour or something. That's something we can schedule. Questions?
So, Brett, is there a time set for the ribbon cutting on the 15th?
I think right now we're
Yeah.
talking 1:30.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor.
Thank you. It may have been in the press release we sent out, but I didn't see it in here. The kitchens, the older kitchens, when did those?
The one's already been gone for a long time, and the west one's going
West
out Friday.
Okay, thank you.
And then actually, the windmill's also coming down. We have to do asbestos abatement, so that'll happen first, and it'll come down.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Okay, thank you, Brett. We will move along to, we don't have any public hearings tonight, but we do have an ordinance. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just our finance director's here to take, I got it on or off? On, okay. He's here to take any comments on the financial before I close my comments.
On the clean water?
Clean water facility, yeah.
So I thought I heard him say that the latest costs that we approved, that the council approved, are in those numbers, right?
Yes.
Yep. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
you bet. Then that concludes city administrator comments. We'll go to 7A. We have our finance director here, Patricia Soul, and she's going to talk about Resolution 1822, authorizing reimbursement from the general fund to the clean water facility. Patricia?
Good evening. I just want to let you know that I don't have a PowerPoint, so I'll go through this, have lots of attachments for you to look at. So this is Resolution 1822, and it's to authorize the general fund to repay revenue that was transferred to it via the Resolution 1524. Before we get to that, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of history that I included in the agenda bill just as an overview. So this started with Resolution 1443 that was passed in January of 2015. It was set for a planned closure of all of the Stay-Sail Park as of February 1st of 2015, so that Hoffman could store and maintain their equipment to save money for construction costs. They were to reimburse the general fund for lost revenue due to the closure in the amount equal to prorated value of the net loss in revenue as compared to the last 3 years. On July 7th of 15, Resolution 1522 was passed authorizing the closure, and the words were, "when deep excavation begins." There was no date given on that resolution. Then on the same night, Resolution 1524 was passed, which was a temporary access lease agreement for $132,000 per year through July of 2018. The things that happened that allowed the revenue to continue through October of 17 was they only closed the north section of the park. They kept the southwest section open. And as I said, the revenues continued and the park stayed open until October of 2017. The lease ended on July 18th, at which point Finance, and Legal looked at the terms of the agreement and found that per Resolution 1524, which was the one on the temporary lease agreement, that there was an overpayment to the general fund in the amount of $220,689.20. So what we would like to see happen tonight would be that council approve Resolution 1822 to reimburse the wastewater project fund clean water facility from the general fund in the amount of $220,689.20. So that's.
Okay, that concludes. Anybody from the public got any input or questions about this? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back. Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Hull, I assume that the money that's going to be transferred from the general fund back into the CWF fund is going to directly go to this current $532,000 deficit we've got in funding?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Servadius.
Thank you. I'll just move if no one has any other comments. So I move to approve Resolution 1822 to reimburse the wastewater project fund from the general fund in the amount of $220,689.26.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as the recommended action reads in your packet. Motion by Councilor Servadius, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any other input or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Patricia. So we will move on to item number 8A. Under contracts and agreements, we have a construction contract award to C. Johnson Construction, 21st Court Sewer Expansion Project. We have our Public Works Director, Kathy Rosen.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Earlier this evening on the consent agenda, you approved a grant agreement with Island County for this specific project. And at that time that we applied for that grant, we had a very high-level planning estimate of over $600,000 for this project. We put it out to bid after council authorized us to solicit bids on August 8th. And we opened 3 bids on August 28th. The lowest bid was $219,169.42. So that's really good news. That bid came from C. Johnson Construction. They've done a lot of work for us in the past and have always performed satisfactorily. And at this time, we are asking the council to approve a motion that authorizes the mayor to sign a contract with C. Johnson Construction for the installation of sewer main in 21st Court in the amount of $219,169.42 and authorize the Public Works Director to execute contract changes of up to $20,000. I might add that this project has a very tight time frame in order to meet the needs of one of the businesses on that road. So we will be done by the end of November.
Okay, make sure nobody from the public has any. Okay, seeing none. Bring it back to City Council. Yes, Councilman Allenberg.
Thank you. Ms. Rosen, since this is substantially less than the grant, and if we wanted to or needed to accelerate this project and pay a premium, do we have the authority to do that with this grant?
I believe we probably could do that. I'm not sure. I'd have to have the city attorney review that. But C. Johnson is busy finishing our water line project, and they've got a few other projects that they're working on. They are able to meet our timeline that we had in the bid documents, so it will be completed in time for the business on 21st Court.
Thank you. That's all.
Councilor Servadius.
A couple of things. I probably should have said it earlier when we approved the grant application with Island County. Thank you to Island County. It's always nice to have those mutual agreements that are, I think, a good use of those funds. What else is going on here? I know this is a little bit of a sidebar, but is there paving that will make up some of the balance of that grant, or we won't need all of that grant amount? This is it to put in the pipe?
This is it. It's a reimbursable grant.
Okay.
So what our final costs are, we will submit for reimbursement from the county, and they will retain the rest of the funding for that grant.
Okay, and will this get that 21st Street paved, or are they just going to do a strip down the center? Or
We're
something?
just going to do the strip down the center.
Oh, okay. Can we pave it? All right, and I'm glad that it's going to a local contractor. I was excited to see that. And if anyone hasn't been out down 21st and seen that new building, you would think it was a Costco. It's impressive. So thank you to TSI for making that investment in our community as well.
Councilor Wiesner?
Yes, Mayor, I just have a couple of comments. This is a great example of the city and the county working together to, enhance the work environment for everybody here in the county. TSI is from what I've seen, has been a fantastic employer. I went out there and toured the plant, met with some of the employees. It's good wage earning jobs and very little byproduct from a manufacturing company. These are the type of companies, obviously, that we would love to see more of in our town. And thanks to the efforts, I know the mayor did quite a bit of work with the county to get this funding secured so that we were able to help this business grow, hire more people here in the county, and keep the tax base here. There was competition from other areas trying to take this business away from us, and without this grant funding and being able to do this project, we certainly could have lost that company and the jobs they brought. So kudos to the mayor and the county and everybody who worked on this, Ms. Rosen, for putting this together and making this happen.
Anyone else? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, I'll make a motion. I move that we authorize the mayor to sign a contract with C. Johnson Construction for the installation of the sewer main in 21st Court in the amount of $218,169.42, and authorize the Public Works Director to execute contract changes up to $20,000.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and the motion follows the recommended action as it is in your packet. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilor Wiesner. Any other input or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, we will move on to item number 8B, utility construction agreement with WSDOT for painting the city's water transmission main brackets and supports. And we have Public Works Director Kathy Rosen.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. WSDOT will be painting Deception Pass Bridge starting next spring, and that will continue into the following spring in 2020. And as part of their project, they are willing to paint our water line, the 16-inch that runs under the bridge. A few years ago, we replaced the hangers, and as part of that project, we painted the 10-inch line, so that won't be painted. However, the connections, anything 6 inches from, well, I'll just read you the specification here to make it easier to understand. Portions of the existing pipe sway braces, pipe supports, and pipe hangers for both water line systems, so both the 10 and 16-inch. Within 6 inches of the bridge truss and overhang connections, as well as the pipe expansion joint support beam limits, shall be prepared and painted in accordance with WSDOT specifications. So when we replaced the hangers, the surface of the bridge where they made that connection was not prepared in the way that WSDOT is going to be preparing it as part of their project. So that 6 inches from the bridge where it makes that connection will be painted on the 10-inch as well as the 16-inch. And then the 16-inch pipe will also be painted. This is one of those situations where we don't have a lot of leverage. We want WSDOT to do something for us because it's going to be very beneficial to us and a lot easier than us having to go out and paint that pipe on our own. And so the agreement that we got may not be the most favorable to the city. It does have a clause in there that says that WSDOT can authorize changes up to 25% of the estimated cost that they have on this contract, and they have not received bids yet before they have to come back to the city. So they can make changes, 25% of this amount, before they have to come back to us. The alternative that we have is to put together a contract and do the traffic control and all of the environmental controls and go out on our own and paint it. And WSDOT's probably not going to be very happy about that, and it will cost us a lot more than this contract. So the Navy will, and under our agreement with the Navy, they will contribute 50% of the cost to paint the 16-inch water transmission main under Deception Pass Bridge. They won't share in the cost of the 10-inch. We don't have an agreement for that. So at this time, we're asking council to approve a motion authorizing the mayor to sign a utility construction agreement with Washington State Department of Transportation for painting the city's 16-inch water transmission main and the brackets and supports for the 10-inch water transmission main and that are connected to Deception Pass Bridge in an amount not to exceed the estimate of $363,992.23 plus an allowance of 25% for changes in work or cost increases.
Okay, then make sure nobody from the public. Okay. Mr. Rojas?
This has nothing to do with this. Are anybody that's licensed, bonded, and insured able to come and give you a bid for that?
Are you talking about painting?
Yes.
Maybe Ms. Rosen.
Not for this particular project because it involves actually going over the side of Deception Pass Bridge in a special bucket truck and painting plus all of the environmental, and the contract would be through WSDOT. So you would have to submit your bid to Washington State Department of Transportation. And their specifications will have the requirements for the bidders, what kind of qualifications they would have to have.
Okay. Okay, back to council then. Yes, Councilor Olmberg?
We had a lengthy conversation before this, and thank you for answering all of my questions in your presentation. As I expressed in our conversation, I don't like to prepay anything when we have a finance relationship and have for years with Department of Transportation where they want upfront $54,000, which happens to be nearly the sum of all of the engineering cost and all of the indirect cost for this project. We pay it up front. If you have a chance, when you have a conversation with them, or in the future, please keep that in mind, that somehow that just doesn't feel right.
I agree with that. Sometimes you just get, that's our standard operating procedure. And how do you keep arguing with that when that's the line you get?
And I appreciate that. And it doesn't make sense to try to do this separately on our own. It's a project that has to go together. Now, my question, though, we didn't talk about this earlier, and it's not a lot of money. We're going to advance pay the WSDOT almost $55,000. At the same time, do we send a bill to the Navy to pay their half of it?
I would recommend that we do that. As soon as we start getting invoiced, then we turn around and invoice the Navy.
Okay, so we don't carry the Navy until the end of the project or something
No.
like that. And slightly off the topic, but when we sent our RFP off to the Navy regarding the lagoons, did we ask the Navy to advance pay those services, or we're doing it up front on a contract without any deposit?
We will be doing it up front without a deposit from them, but with an agreement. And
Just-
we have added a 10% administrative charge.
Right. So we will get reimbursed as we incur those expenses?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was slightly off topic, but it's still a similar arrangement. Thank you, Ms. Rosen. That's all I have.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Any other discussion?
Councilor Wiesner?
Yes, I just have one question, Ms. Rosen. What's the reason for the 25% allowance up front? Kind of not standard in our other contracts. Was that required by the state?
That is one of their requirements, but I look at it as very similar to a contingency that, like you just approved, me to approve changes in the water line contract up to $20,000. So this would be a 25% contingency, if you will. So they can approve changes if something happens in the field and there's a cost increase or some sort of change that needs to be made that increases the cost. They have the authority to do that.
It just seems to be a higher percentage than what we would normally see in a contract. So it's mainly just to make it so that you can be fluid.
Yes.
Because obviously when the contractor's out there, something has to be changed. It's not like a stop, come back over the bridge, and we'll think about this thing.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody? Yes, Councilor Servadius.
One other question. If they were inspected and painted 2 years ago, what's the timeline before we'd have to do this again if we did not do this now or in next spring?
So this is interesting. Both Rich Tiehouse and I thought that the pipe and bridge had been painted. Let's say I started in the city in 1998, and I thought I remembered it being painted. Rich asked WSDOT. They said the last time that they painted the bridge and our water lines was 1997. So it's been 30 years.
But doesn't this say the 10-inch pipe, not the 16?
Yeah, we just did the 10-inch.
Okay.
And they won't be painting the actual pipe. They're just going to be prepping and painting 6 inches from the connection to the bridge down 6 inches.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Larson.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
So with the 25%, we're looking at possibly up to $455,000. My question is not so much about that, because that was the first thing I highlighted. I'm glad everybody else is paying attention too, because like 25% seems high, but I understand we don't have any latitude there. But what I am asking about, because the Navy isn't going to pay anything that has anything to do with the 10-inch pipe, and since a portion of that amount is going to be to paint those brackets, have they, or are they going to identify what portion of that contract is going to be exempt of the Navy's 50% share?
Yes, Rich has been in conversations with WSDOT over that.
Okay, so that'll be forthcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Councilor Olmberg, go ahead.
I do have one more question. Since we're advancing $54,000, almost $55,000, and in this climate, construction costs are very high, and let's say these numbers come in, and since WSDOT is collecting this money for engineering and incidental costs, they're going to incur those costs even if they don't award the project. Let's say they get extremely high costs and they don't go forward with it right now. Where does that leave us? Do you know where we are with getting our $54,000 back if there's no performance?
My guess is that I haven't read the contract, so I'm thinking that that money will have been expended for the engineering and preparation of the plan specifications and
That's my
documents.
concern about this, that we pay it in advance and then we may not get the product.
But they are speccing for our water lines, so there is some work that they will be incurring to accommodate our request and our infrastructure.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mayor Pro Tem?
I make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the utility construction agreement with Washington State Department of Transportation for the painting of the city's 16-inch water transmission as stated in our packet.
Second.
So we've got a motion to authorize the mayor, just as the recommended action reads in your packet. A motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilor Olmberg. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes
you.
unanimously. Thank you, Kathy. So at this time, the city council is going to recess into an executive session as authorized under RCW 4230-110, 1 Section I, to discuss a potential litigation. The executive session will take place in the mayor's conference room and is expected to last approximately 20 minutes. The council is not expected to take action following the executive session. The regular council meeting will reconvene afterwards.
I should, Windburn.
Yeah.
More damage goes on.
Spent a little more time on the water than I planned to.
Okay, I'd like to reconvene our September 18th regular city council meeting here. We concluded our executive session, and no action was taken, and I believe the only thing we have left to do here is adjourn this meeting.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion second to adjourn. That would be Councilor Allenberg, Councilman Wiesner, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.